first Asian scientist winning the Turing Award, Academician of Chinese Academy of Sciences and Foreign Academician of American Academy of Sciences. Mr. Yao won the Turing Award in 2000. His research includes the computation series as well as its applications in encryption as well as quantum computing, used to teach me in many famous universities. In 2005, he established the computer science laboratory class, Yao's class. It is rewarded. It is known as the world's best bachelor degree education for computer science in the world. In 2019, he created the Tsinghua AI class. Class. In 2011, he established Tsinghua Quantum Information Center and Cross-Information Research Institute. In January 2020, Shanghai Qizhi Research Institute was established, led by Mr. Yao Qizhi. He will give us a presentation on some challenges faced by artificial intelligence. Welcome. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to share with you some of my views and meet you in this forum. As we all know that over the past few years, AI has already major impacts on the humanity and the science community in particular. In this context, does it mean that AI can solve all the human problems? Today, I would like to discuss this issue. My presentation will be structured in three parts. First, what are the weaknesses of AI technologies today? Second, down the road, where will be the future breakthroughs of AI? Third, in future, AI will have bigger impact on human society. What problems might arise and how can we address these problems? I'm going to put forward some examples to illustrate my point. These examples are very unique. So some of these examples are the applications. Some are very important for scientific theories involved. I hope that I know that all these issues I raised are deemed as very critical issues in the AI community. These are the iconic issues in China. Maybe in a couple of years, in hindsight, we can see whether the team of AI in China has made breakthroughs and have we caught up with the world in this area. The first direction. At present, AI seems very fancy. Are there any problems and shortcomings? Let me raise the first example. The algorithms generated by AI are very vulnerable and unstable. To put it in a context, if we have one picture, a minor change to this picture makes no difference to human eyes. But based on the algorithm of AI, is it possible to have very stable judgment on the pictures subject to a little or minor changes? Let's see a very classic example. This is a picture of a little pig. If you apply a very small noise, a little bit change to this photo, for the human eyes, the image of a pig is still very clear. But according to the algorithm generated by some AI, this pig cannot be identified. The pig will be identified as airliner by some AI. algorithm. This situation is very serious. According to many research, many picture or pattern recognition algorithm by AI have these problems. If it is attacked, if someone apply a little noise on the pictures, there will be very severe consequences. We often hear about such an example in the stop sign on the street. This is a sign to show that the driver should stop there. If you want to attack that stop sign, you can find an image to change that stop sign into a go-through sign read by the AI. This will be a very severe safety challenge in automatic driving. That's why robustness is a weakness in the AI technologies today. To apply algorithm of AI, there are many areas. It is not limited to graph recognition. Now it has been permeated into many industries and all fabrics of society: governance, environment, ethics, education, healthcare, etc. Therefore, efficiency is not the most important or the only yardstick. Of course, we hope that AI can be very precise and effective or efficient, but we also hope that it has some other dimensions so as to make it more socially friendly or legally friendly. Let's see another example. At present, a lot of algorithms generated by AI are not explainable. What does it mean? If I use AI algorithm to read the data, then I come up with an algorithm. I will apply this algorithm. I talk to a company. Now, this algorithm is very effective. If the company wants to use my product, but I cannot give the company a very clear-cut explanation. If this is a public product, it will be very difficult for the general public to accept that, or it might even give rise to legal concerns. For example, if we want to use AI to develop a property valuation system, if AI algorithm analyze a lot of data of purchase and selling, after the machine learning, after a lot of calculation, the AI comes up with a system. The system can give a very good valuation of this property. So you don't want human involvement in setting the price of this property. If this system is put to use, for example, if some seller wants to sell his property, he can get some estimated price, for example, 2 million RMB for his property. The seller might feel a bit suspicious. Is it too low? Is this system trustworthy? Is it possible that the developer of this system is biased against me? This is a very good case in point. Even you have a very good algorithm, it is very difficult to explain to the general public how this system is designed. So, explainability is another hard bone to crack for many researchers. Nowadays, AI algorithms, of course, are very strong, but on the other hand, there are some weaknesses. It's like a black box. it's very mysterious. The product outcome is mysterious. For example, if in your products there are some elements that are illegal, you cannot explain. These issues are really important. If you apply AI algorithm to large-scale project, in particular, the project that sets a very tall bar for security, these concerns are barriers so that people are not willing or daring to deploy this system across the board or in larger areas. Next, I would like to talk about another area of application for AI. In 5 years' time or 10 years' time, what breakthroughs can we make? Or in what areas can we make breakthroughs most likely in AI in 5 to 10 years' time? In enhancement learning, this is a technology that might witness a breakthrough in the short run, say 3 or 5 years' time. Stunning progress can be made in this regard, both in scientific theory and application. Let me give you an example by the drones. For example, a group of drones can be used for the lighting show, or it can be applied to the agriculture or forest monitoring and operation. Although these issues are quite complicated, but they are within the scope of traditional computer science. If we did distributed computing for dozens of years, we have a lot of expertise and experiences to solve these issues. But down the road, if we want to go further, for example, if we use the drones in a combating situation, or even in a military combat, or in the electronic games, computer games, how can we design the best approach? Just now, I said at present, drones can be applied to a lighting show. It's just like a lot of other computer problems. It's an issue that human beings compete with the nature. The nature is not very hostile. The nature is not intentionally combating you. These issues or these problems are easy to be solved. It's just like in the control theory. The environment is randomized. They are neutral. They are not hostile to you. But if we want to apply drones to a combating scenario between people to people, between unit to unit, people versus people, or unit versus unit. So the traditional computer science theories from the mathematical perspective will not be applied. They will encounter a dead end. In this area, AI can play its role, say, reinforcement learning. Through reinforcement learning, the algorithms can do a lot of research into the combat scenario or situation. Compared with the facial recognition, if you increase the accuracy by 0.1 or 0.2%, but the enhancement learning is a difference between 0 and 1. This is a very important direction for future improvement in AI. Third, people want to apply AI to many aspects of society. we need to consider, we need to take into consideration multiple factors, not only AI-specific capabilities, but also the interactions between AI and other advanced technologies, which are necessary to solve certain issues or problems. I'd like to raise two cases. First, privacy issues, privacy protection. AI is powerful in generating algorithms, but AI need to use a lot of data. For example, if you call for multiple party collaboration to come up with a very good result by AI algorithm, you might involve privacy protection issues. Different parties want to protect their own data. Very luckily, as early as 40 years ago, computer scientists already did some research and solved that problem. I am one of the contributors to the solution of that problem called MPC, multi-party computing. You can inscribe this data and then do the calculation. That is to say that other people will not know what the original data look like. Through this MPC, different database can collaborate for computing and without leaking their respective data. Through the machine learning perspective, MPC allow different parties and teams to collaborate with their respective private data sets. On the one hand, it enables high-quality learning. On the other hand, it can ensure the data privacy of different parties. These AI applications are really useful for the fintech and pharmaceutical research. So let's see what intelligent drug development is. To develop a new drug is really expensive. It calls for C amount of data. Data is also expensive. Generally speaking, big pharmaceutical companies set up their own database. Each one of them will use AI to develop the drug, but the probability of winning is small. The quality is not very high, and it takes a longer time. But if different pharmaceutical companies can collaborate on their data, a lot of time can be saved. Of course, this is an ideal situation. If AI algorithm is combined with MPC that protect the safety of data and privacy of people's different parties' IPR, that will greatly enhance the productivity of research. Over the past 2 to 3 years, some efficient teams have already made big strides in this regard. 3 years ago, in MIT, Barney Berger's team published a paper on science on their case of multi-team collaboration. In terms of social governance, AI can also play its role, which leads us to my next point. Well, this is not a particular technical issue. It tells us the optimal target of AI. At the very beginning, we hope that AI can really replace intelligence. It can be even smarter than human intelligence. Over the past few years, AI's rapid development reignite people's hope. Maybe in the foreseeable future, we can reach that goal of general AI, or in a more common terminology, superintelligence. Some visionary people started to discuss this issue. They raised a concern. Yes, we might come up with superintelligence, but if that is the case, if it is super smart than human intelligence, how can we control that superintelligence? Please allow me by raising the issue. The superintelligence issue was an interest of scientists back in 1950. There was a guru called John McCarthy, a pioneer of AI, raised this point back in 1977. One asked about this issue, he answered, if we want to realize superintelligence, we need to make breakthroughs in our mentality. We need 1.3 Einstein plus 0.3 Manhattan Project. It might take between 5 to 500 years. That is to say, it's very unpredictable. One, the superintelligence will be realized. Over the past few years, this issue has been discussed by many famous people. People tend to be very philosophical in talking about AI. But more recently, people tend to feel that superintelligence needs to be controllable and kind. Minister Wang also made the same point, such as atomic energy and generic editing. Berkeley has a professor called Professor Russell. He is very sober in raising 3 principles. He thought that as long as we can abide by these following three principles in developing superintelligence, the superintelligence can be intelligence. First, superintelligence should be altruistic. Second, it should be humble. Third, it should be diligent. But he raised a practical solution. He said that each and every of these principles can be guaranteed through mathematical algorithm and calculation. It can be incorporated in the design of the future superintelligence. This is my proposal for future directions of AI development. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the speaker is the president of the Westlake University, vice chairman of China Association for Science and Technology, and academician of Chinese Academy of Sciences, Mr. Shi Yigong. He used to be the youngest professor in the Princeton University in the biology department. He is also the double academician in the U.S. He is also now the president of Westlake University and vice chairman of China Association for Science and Technology. He also won the Biomedicine Award for 2013. He will be talking about the mission of research-based universities in China. Thank you very much for your kind words, Mr. Moderator. It's a great pleasure for me to participate in the Pujiang Innovation Forum. It's an honor for me to meet a lot of distinguished guests here today. I'm quite inspired by the previous speaker. It's a very academic speech. Mr. Yao Qizhi has made a very academic speech that inspired me a lot. I want to talk about a general topic, which is universities. Due to time limitations, I'll be quick. I'll give a brief speech. First, the Chinese universities have been developing very fast, but they're not strong enough. China's technologies, China's talent are numerous and have large quantities, but they are not strong enough. So universities are the basis, are the fundamentals. So we need to have top-notch universities so that China's development could be further advanced. So look at the first slide, please. I cannot summarize China's higher ed university or education. I will give you some numbers. In terms of numbers, we are without a doubt the #1 higher ed country in the world. We have nearly 3,000 ordinary higher ed institutions in China, and we have 40 million students in universities. For postgraduate students, we have 2.86 people, and doctorate students, we have 420,000 people, so they're equal to small countries. We should be proud because higher ed institutions or higher education, after 72 years of development of the People's Republic of China, they have been developing very fast, so we should be proud of ourselves. In terms of international ranking, there are several different rankings made by different institutions. Although they have their own limitations, but if you look at these somewhat biased and controversial rankings, you could see that we are not strong enough. Chinese universities are not strong enough. We need to develop ourselves into a higher ed superpower. In terms of technologies, Mr. Zhi Gang also summarized the development of Chinese technologies. After the reform and opening up of China, we have made a lot of advances. For example, in terms of R&D expenditure, last year we have exceeded 2 trillion yuan, so ranked second in the world. And also in terms of R&D expenditure in basic research, it has exceeded 120 billion yuan with a double-digit growth. So the output is also huge in terms of the number of articles published, in terms of the number of references, in terms of the number of being referenced. So in terms of these figures, we are now becoming one of the top-notch technological and scientific superpower or powerhouse in the world. A lot of people are asking, how strong are we in terms of our innovation power? Let's look at this question from 3 perspectives. So these are the 3 indexes. We have a China Science and Technology Research Institute. So we have this National Innovation Index. You could see that we have been developing very fast, and this report from WIPO, our ranking has been going up continuously. But China does not rank among the top 10 countries in the world. So you see that in terms of numbers, figures, and quantities, we lead the world, but in terms of quality and in terms of the evaluations of different institutions, we still lag behind. So in terms of technologies and in terms of science, we are not one of the superpowers in the world. And also in terms of our talent pool in China, thanks to the policy of reform and opening up in 1978, in 26th of December, we have a closing ceremony of the 3rd plenary session of the 11th Central Committee. So the policy of reform and opening up has become a national policy. We are all beneficiaries of such national policy. 8 days after that, the first batch of Chinese students went to the U.S. This is the very first international students from China to the U.S. Every year after that, this number go up by 40 to 50 times. So when I went to the U.S. at that year, I learned that 20,000 Chinese students would go to the U.S. for doctorate degree. So this is a huge impact. As of the end of 2019, more than 6 million Chinese students went abroad for studies, mostly in Western countries. So in 2006, the number of students who earned a PhD in U.S. university from Tsinghua University actually grew by a huge number. So this shows the development and the changes that we have gone through. So if you look at the figures from the National Natural Science Fund, you see the 6 curves. If you look at the blue curve, the number of applicants, the average age of the applicants applying for the National Natural Science Fund is 50 at that time in 1986. But in 2017, you see the number was actually only 39. So if you look at this curve, you could see that thanks to the policy of reform and opening up, the mix and the structure of the talent has changed. The quality of our talent and the age structure of our talent have all changed. This is a stunning change. But our weaknesses are that although we have a huge quality of talent, in terms of quantity, we are world #1 in terms of talent. But you see, it is a pyramid structure. The top-notch talent is still minimal. I cannot give you an exact figure or percentage, but you see the number of top-notch talent for China is still quite small. So in terms of education, talent, and technologies, we need to face up to the challenge of becoming a top-notch superpower instead of being just a mediocre power. So the 4th point is the mission and responsibility and the role played by research-based universities. So there are 4 things I would like to point out. All new emerging industries come from breakthroughs in core technologies, and core technologies come from discoveries of primitive science. All these core technological innovation and primary scientific discoveries all come from top-notch academicians and experts. And all these top-notch experts are concentrated in top-notch universities and research institutes. So if you look at Howard Hughes Institute, LMB, University of Cambridge, and Institute of Princeton, you see all these are small-scale laboratories affiliated with the large universities. They are small-scale laboratories, but they have changed our world. So all these figures are very good illustration of that. I'll give you some very detailed example. For example, in 1975, at Kohler-Milstein, they found the monoclonal antibody approach. And also James Allison and Mr. Chen Lieping, they found the antibody utilization in anti-cancer therapy. So you see, these are discoveries in basic science, but they have pushed forward development of various industries. The cycle is long, but we need to persist. For example, gene sequencing, it is still at the beginning of its development. It's still a $20 billion industry, but in the future, it will become hundreds of billions of dollars of industry. They all come from basic science development. So these are the scientists that have discovered and developed gene sequencing technology, the Franklin Wilson, Sanger, and Rothberg. So gene sequencing actually come from the basic scientific discoveries such as double helix structure. So talent and basic science research, they all need the development of universities. In this area, we need to know more about U.S. universities. U.S. universities, they have different scale. For example, Rockefeller University, they only have 70+ professors. Caltech, they have less than 300 professors. Stanford, it is the largest university, but it has only 1,500 professors. So these are universities that have small scale compared with the Chinese universities. But I believe that they have played huge roles, critical roles in pushing forward human civilization. Be it in China or in overseas countries, universities are the source of innovation. If you look at the number of innovative universities, the percentage of government fund in universities, you will see that the U.S. is #1 because universities are the source of innovation. I only have 2 minutes, so I will give you the last part of my speech, the Westlake University Vanguard in Education and Research. Thanks to the reform and opening up policy, Westlake universities has gained huge advances. So 5 years ago, we started to set up this Westlake University, and we chose Hangzhou City, which is at the vanguard of reform and opening up policy. The Westlake University has a lot of features. We often say that we hope the Westlake University could be a bridge between Western and Eastern cultures, especially in this current international context. We hope that we could become a platform for exchange between the East and the West. So this is the very first new type of research-based university. It has a school administration board, and the president and the head of the board will make decisions together. So in the course of the development of the university, we have set up a roadmap for the development of the university. Within the university, we only have administrative service departments. We don't have administration departments. So what we are most proud of is that we are very outward-looking. The 90% of professors, doctorate professors, come from abroad. The average age, over 70% of our professors are less than 40 years old. So they have huge potential, and we believe in them. And now we have 10,000 applications from around the world, and we have signed contracts with 139 teachers, and 90% of them are from abroad, 70% of them are less than 40 years old. So this is a really small-scale but high-quality university. So we believe that this is the way that we could have a university that cultivates talent with social responsibility and top-notch innovation spirit. So for the fourth phase of our enrollment, we have 274 students for the Westlake University. we also have our very special enrollment system and curriculum. So think about it. If we have very good professors, good students, then we could, without a doubt, have very good research programs and results. And we also will have established very good scientific and technological infrastructures so that these top-notch scientists could do their research projects here. And we also have we are also one of the first batch of 4 laboratories at the Zhejiang provincial level. So all these figures are very good illustrations already. I will not go into detail. If you are in the Westlake University 6 years later, if you teach there 6 years later, if we don't look at the number of references, number of articles you published, the CSI articles that you published. We want you to tell a story. What kind of contributions have you made to the world? Without your contributions, will there be a vacuum in the world that could not be compensated by other scientists? So we hope that all these scientists could make unique contributions to the world. We do not look at the number of articles and the number of citations. So we hope that with such new system of evaluation, we hope that we could push forward the progress and reform in the evaluation system for scientists. And also after we have research results, we will also help the translation or transformation of these basic research results into industrial products and achievements. So, as the Westlake University has 3 missions. First, we want to explore a new system of we want to explore the ways and approaches to cultivate students with social responsibility, and we want to cultivate talent with top-notch innovation capacity. So all these figures, I believe that they are still far away because we are still at the beginning, but I'm very confident that in several years we could see a number of impactful projects born in the Westlake University. I thank you for your long-standing support to us.
Okay, thank you. Now the next presenter is academician Wu Manqing, General Manager of CETC and also academician of the Academy of Engineering. He's an expert of Internet and Information Technology. He became academician in 2009, who is the president of CETC today, and he's the chief of National Lab on Social Security Risk Censoring and Prevention Big Data Application. And he's also the chief of expert panel of Technology Innovation 2030 Major Technology Breakthrough for Integrated IT System. So his presentation is on the topic of technology innovation and governance of ICT era. Minister Xu Guanghua, Vice Mayor Wu Qing, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. The theme of my presentation is technology, cooperation, innovation, and governance in the ICT era. We've entered through industrial revolution, agricultural revolution, and ICT revolution. Industrial revolution is local, defined by locomotive. Then ICT is defined by IC, integrated circuit. It's about interconnectivity, about faster, more productive connectivity and more timely connectivity. And also we've seen more risk connectivity. Earlier, academician Yao mentioned MPC,
it might be a good way for us to prevent the connectivity of risk. I think 3 important things happened on one day, almost one day, April 19. April 19, 1965, Moore's Law was introduced, which really changed our life and changed our society and will also change our future. The main idea is to integrate more IC on a circuit board. So we've always seen 65 nano, 42 nanometer, and 7 nanometer. And also in April 19 of 2016, President Xi Jinping convened personally an important meeting on internet security and ICT. He made an important instruction. He said that the ICT industry represents new productive force and also point to the future. So we need to take one step ahead in that. And also, almost on the same day, in 2018, the Central Party Committee convened a working meeting on internet security and ICT. President Xi proposed to build a strong country in China, very strong in ICT. And also about the same year, in 2008, we've also seen 3 very interesting breakthroughs. In that year, 2008, urban dwellers for the first time surpassed the population in countryside. And also in that year, the wireless internet users for the first time overtook that of wired internet user. And the third, the connection amongst machines for the first time surpassed that the connection among humans. Now, this is becoming a connected world. It's a connected world between human, machine, and objects. So these are 3 different areas. We have data flowing between. We're very happy to see in Shanghai, the industrial internet of things in Shanghai was officially launched with only over 3 million sensors. Data generated from these sensors could amount to nearly 30 million pieces. Within such a short period of time, and from ICT's perspective, what kind of a world will we be looking at? I would like to summarize them into 5 sentences. We're going to encompass everything. It's not Internet of Things. It's Internet of Things and human beings and everything combined. Feels like without smartphones, we don't know how to live on. And also, we will have seamless integration, and we will have compressed time and space. Eventually, we will have more profound, smart everything. Behind it shows the importance of connectivity and nodes, connecting nodes. In today's era of ICT, should our innovation capability also cover that? We should have an innovation system with connectivity. In other words, cooperation and co-governance means the connectivity of nodes. These nodes, because they have their unique value, and those nodes all have their self-independence as well as their own competence. In innovation process, it could be a scientist, a research institute, a business, an era, area, or even a country. Anything can be viewed as a connecting node. A connecting node is in itself an innovative world. I think there should be some leader institution, leader business, and leader scientists. They need to play bigger and bigger role. I also fully agree with earlier speaker, President Shi Gong. in saying that universities is one of those hubs. I think these backbone business and the leading pioneer scientists will take the lead in accumulating resources. I'm going to use integrated circuit as an example. Today, compared with the 1970s, in order to achieve Moore's law, we need 18 times more people to do that. That shows this IC industry is concentrated with talent. And to build a 14 nanometer chip company foundry takes 13 billion. 10 nanometer, $15 billion. If you take a look at TSMC, they've got 20 foundries. Annual output 12 million pieces, over 270 different silicon technologies, supporting 10,700 clients, and with over 3,000 vendors supplying material for them. The top 5 like chip makers are shown as above. That shows the concentration of resources. Earlier, we've also seen the 2 recipients of Nobel 2020 in chemistry, one French and the other American chemist. In 2011, in a conference, the 2 of them, they just had a discussion. I'm not an expert in genetics. That's why I quoted a long passage to show what it was all about. Just the discussion between 2 scientists produced a breakthrough technique, brought forth a new industry with immense opportunities. I think the concentration of scientists will just bring together more resources and productive factors. In terms of connectivity, the synergy, the attractiveness of connectivity is key. You need to be able to draw nodes into your connection to build an entire ecosystem. Right now, we have seen a trend, a global connectivity, and evolutionary development is leading industries to be more upgraded and modernized. Let's give one example again of ICT or of IC. Over 25 countries are directly involved in supply chain. Over 23 countries are involved in the supporting industries for IC industry. So that shows how all-encompassing this kind of industry is. For example, a cell phone, a smartphone, if it's manufactured in Japan, it will take over 70 travels, international travels, over 100 days, spanning many countries, including nearly 3 global round trip. The reason for that, people are saying that international logistics is also cutting their cost dramatically. So global boundary is really negligible for these industries. So these international connectivity shows the features of system. Systems means that it's fully integrated to meet the needs of certain capacity. If you do away with any independent nodes in a system, the efficiency of the system will be undercut. In China, we've always advocated the importance of putting together maximum resources to pull out some real important feat. That also makes sense in science and technology industry. A lot of the time, we pay attention to the relationship amongst all the nodes within the system, but we don't interfere in the interaction within the system. When the capabilities are scaled up in that system, it will result in the evolution of science and technological innovation. We've seen mixed, fast, and slow changes of the world. Sometimes we don't know. When we stopped writing postcards, when we stopped writing letters, when we entered into this era, we didn't even notice that, but we are already in a disrupted new age. Yesterday, on my way to Shanghai, I saw a passage. A mother who is also a doctor, published over 50 SCI papers by putting together 240 million US dollars. I was very touched. The parent's kid is an early elder age kid by the name of Sam. This doctor mother, this physician mother, launched a systemic innovation collaboration. Over 21 years passed, covering altogether 30 countries across 6 continents, and they were able to really pulling together the people of experts in this area. So they were able to eventually pull the miracle. Over $35 million were donated into the research foundation. And they also went through the pathway of genetic therapy with over 30 countries across 6 continents participated in the clinical research and the trial. Upon reading that article, I was beginning to think, what is the fundamental force driving forward technological innovation? I think it's about the power of connectivity. I was thinking that the power of connectivity is not enough. We need to be driven by needs and questions to lead the trend, the direction of innovation. One example, 130 nanometer, 90 nanometer, all the way down to 7 nanometer, even 3 nanometer. The key is if we could use 90 nanometer technique to produce something as high quality as 7 nanometer product. The answer is you can do that. Right now, we talked about 7, 14, and 5 nanometer. China does not have the knowledge and expertise for producing that. However, China has huge demand. If you have demand orientation and you also have question orientation, you will be able to use 90 nanometer or 65 nanometer technique to produce chips with equally high quality as 40 nanometer. Our power consumption is about their three times of their peers, but with the performance 4 times of its peers. And also, we need to identify the right path forward for the choice of technology. We are all discussing Moore's law. We want to develop more precise supply chain. In 1965, Moore's law was proposed to put more integrated circuit on one circuit board. That's just one part of Mr. Moore's judgment. Now that you have more chips concentrated on one circuit board, that means your cost is cut down significantly. But I've actually read the original paper of his on page 3. Now that page 3 became a US page 3 moonshot project. The idea is to change the architecture, the design, and the material and the integration of circuit board. Nobody defined the architecture of CPU. Like FPG and DSU cannot be integrated on CPU. That's where China could make a move. That's especially if it's driven by the immense market need in China. And our team is working on that as we speak. The second is to disrupt its design. We've been buying other people's design tool, and we have always been running on other people's pathway. It feels like a express highway with no exit. But once the highway was blocked, you could all do nothing but wait on the highway. But if we could integrate all the chips on our own circuit board, we're faced with many new design problems. And if we could gather together and do some research projects, it's actually quite viable. And right now, silicon-based like photoelectron technology is now being developed in China. I think if you choose the right way forward is actually very important. Technology pathway is actually quite important. Last but not least, I want to use this triangle to conclude. One, the fundamental force is one, the direction innovation, the power, two, the power connectivity, third, the choice of technology path forward. So in order to do a good job in that, we need to align ourselves with international trend and cater to the bigger need of the industry and the betterment of people's life. We need to be more connected and choose the right technology path forward. I believe this path should be independently owned and run and managed by China. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Academician Wu Manqing. The year 2020 is an eventful year. The unexpected COVID-19 caused huge impact on the humanity. If we look at the history, so the most important weapon against diseases, in particular epidemic, is science and technology. In order to win the battle against diseases, we need to play the full role of science and technology. Today we have 6 panelists centering on science and technology innovation and global cooperation. We would like to have some discussion. We'll have 2 international experts, Nicolas Gilbert, President and CEO of PASS, and Mr. Richard Hatchett, CEO of the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations. We're also very glad to have with us Mr. Chen Haixian, Academician of Chinese Academy of Sciences, Chen Erzhen, Vice President of Ruijin Hospital, Shanghai Jiaotong University School of Medicine, Zhang Wenhong, Director of the Department of Infectious Disease, Huashan Hospital, Fudan University, and Lance Rodwell, Senior Advisor to Science Center for Disease Control and Prevention. We would like to invite Nicolas Gilbert, President and CEO of PASS, who will share with us through the video on some of past explorations and practice.
And thank you for including me in the 2020 Pujiang Innovation Forum. My name is Nicolas Gilbert. I'm the President and CEO of PATH. I'm very honored to be here with you all today, talking about science and technology, innovation, and global health governance. I joined PATH in January, just as we are all learning about the novel coronavirus. The last 10 months have been challenging and inspiring, to say the least. For those of you who don't know PATH, we are a global nonprofit organization that work to improve public health. We work locally, partnering with ministries of health in countries around the world to help design and implement public health programming and interventions. We also work globally, developing technology, vaccines, pharmaceuticals, and devices that are affordable and appropriate for use in the places where they are delivered. PATH has been working in China for more than 40 years. In fact, one of our earliest projects was with the Chinese government to increase access to contraception. Our legacy in China includes many great breakthroughs in science and technology. With funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, we supported the Chengdu Institute of Biological Products on their Japanese encephalitis JE vaccine. After 8 years of collaboration and effort, the JE vaccine became the first Chinese vaccine to receive WHO pre-qualification. It has helped protect more than 300 million children from the disease. And just this year, the PATH China team opened its Shanghai office, transitioning from Beijing. They will be working closely with the Science and Technology Commission of Shanghai Municipality on pharmaceuticals, vaccines, and other technological advances for health. We are very excited about this. I believe there are many good things about and ahead for PATH and for the people of China. I'm very optimistic. When we collaborate with important partners to advance science, everyone wins. At PATH, our mission is health equity. We want everyone to be able to benefit from advances in science, regardless of where they live or how much money they have. For PATH, innovation might also look a little bit different. We have helped develop first-of-its-kind technologies, vaccines, drugs, and other public health innovations. But we specialize in taking scientific advancements and finding creative ways to make them more affordable, more accessible, more stable, or easier to store. So when we say innovation, it's not necessarily new. It's better, it's different, and sometimes even simpler. COVID has asked all of us to solve problems like this, to do more with less, to manage a pandemic on top of the many other pressing health issues and challenges we have. We have worked directly with leaders in Senegal and the Democratic Republic of Congo to integrate visualization dashboards used by national emergency operations centers and national malaria control programs. The goal was to track trends in malaria in real time that might also be affected by COVID, to build on systems already in place, to strengthen the data architecture so that it can track and respond to any disease and many at a time, making a system designed for one disease that work for every disease. That's innovation. In Vietnam, we made disease tracking easier. In February, at the height of the COVID-19 outbreak, if someone was suspected of having COVID, the system used to track and report that suspected case was slow, it was manual, it was laborious. And it all started with a paper form. Then a clerk would add the information to a disease surveillance spreadsheet, and then the spreadsheet was shared with other health officials. That happened every day, and it took too long time. This system was fine for health issues that do not require a nimble, flexible, agile response, but for a fast-moving outbreak like COVID, accurate real-time data about cases and transmissions are very important, as all of you know. They help shape the response, allocate resources, and inform critical policy decisions to prevent further transmission. So PATH and partners developed new online COVID-19 reporting forms and had them deployed in just 9 days. That data was immediately available to decision makers. It was presented on screen as visualizations of case clusters. It made it easier to make connections between cases, know how long transmission was occurring, and how the outbreak was moving. Vietnam has proven to be one of the top COVID response success stories in the world, due in part to their ability to adapt quickly. That is innovation. And now we must look forward. What will it mean to innovate in the next few months or the next few years? We must create a vaccine that protects people against COVID. And not just the vaccine itself, but also the way it's packaged, it's shipped, refrigerated, and stored. All of these details matter because we need everyone to get the vaccine if we want to safely resume travel, commerce around the world. And it matters to all of us, whether someone in Uganda, Ukraine, or the United States gets the vaccine. It will take innovation in science, but also in policy, supply chain, human resources, and so much more. We must make sure that all the things people needed before the pandemic also continue, and we must do this in parallel. Essential services like maternal care, routine immunizations, and screening for cancer, all of this must continue. And that will require us to innovate, but the outcome won't be a new gadget or a new tool. But like most technological advances, it will take creativity, collaboration, and inspiration to make sure we cover all of the challenges that we face. I know my team at PATH does this every day, motivated by our mission and the belief that we all deserve to be healthy and to have access to the testing, treatment, and things we need to stay safe. I really look forward to hearing from all of you and continuing to partner with China to make all of this possible. Many thanks.
Next, I will give the floor to Mr. Richard Hatchett, who is the CEO of the Coalition
Excellencies, distinguished guests, Professor Zhu, Honorable Minister Wang, my fellow plenary speakers, and the organizers of the Pujiang Innovation Forum. It is a great honor to address you this evening about three important topics. First, the importance of international collaboration and unity in responding to the pandemic. Second, CEPI's progress in supporting COVID-19 vaccine development. And third, CEPI's growing partnership with Chinese stakeholders and with the health and science community in China. I congratulate the Chinese people and authorities for successfully controlling COVID-19. You have set a benchmark for the rest of the world in dealing with this terrible disease. I would also like to express my sincere thanks to the People's Republic of China for joining COVAX. This represents an important milestone in the world's collective response to COVID-19. COVAX is a global initiative co-led by CEPI, Gavi, and the World Health Organization to ensure globally fair allocation of COVID-19 vaccines in the interest of ending the acute phase of the pandemic as quickly as possible. China's announcement that it will join COVAX is a signal of China's commitment to fulfill President Xi's promise to make Chinese vaccines available to the world and of China's global leadership in humanity's struggle against the virus. Developing vaccines at speed requires an unprecedented level of collaboration and coordination between the public and private sectors. We initiated our first vaccine programs just 12 days after the release of the viral sequences. And so far, CEPI has committed over $1 billion to accelerating COVID-19 vaccine development. We are advancing vaccines that can meet our objectives of speed, scale, and access. We've created a diverse portfolio of 9 vaccines, 3 of which are now in phase 3 clinical trials, which with the 4 phase 3 candidates developed here in China represent the majority of such vaccines in the world. Our portfolio is geographically and technologically diverse. We're backing developers in the United States, in Europe, and in Asia, including 2 in China, Clover Biopharmaceuticals and Hong Kong University. The vaccines we're supporting in China augment China's world-leading vaccine development program. To further develop our partnership with China this year, we opened a representative office in Shanghai. We are excited about collaborating with the Chinese research and development community, both now and in the future, as we ultimately move into the world beyond COVID. There is no doubt that China's vaccine innovation has contributed substantially to the global response to COVID-19. China has a thriving biotech sector, proven expertise in vaccine development, and substantial manufacturing capabilities. And with China now a member of COVAX, these capabilities can be channeled to support the efficient and equitable distribution of COVID-19 vaccines to help control this devastating pandemic in partnership with the rest of the world. Indeed, COVAX represents a new kind of global partnership, countries working together with non-governmental organizations and industry, as well as with traditional multilateral institutions, because it is only by working together that we can prevail as a global community against COVID-19. This matters because epidemics and pandemics represent an existential threat. They are fundamentally transnational in their impact, and they are not going away. Today, we are at a true turning point in the pandemic. With China's commitment, over 170 countries are now backing COVAX, representing more than 90% of the global population. Nothing like this has ever been attempted before on such a scale and in such a short span of time. COVAX represents the first time the world has come together to make sure new life-saving medical technologies can be made available globally as soon as they are licensed. Collaboration at this scale is the only way we can reduce the threat of pandemics now and in the future. If we can solve this problem together, we can strengthen health security for all. I thank you for your attention and look forward to future collaborations.
Next, we will have a special dialogue. I will now invite to the stage Mr. Chen Kaixin, Mr. Chen Erzheng, Mr. Zhang Wenhong, and Mr. Lance Rodwald to the stage.
We are quite behind the schedule, so we are going to carry out the dialogue very concisely. First question is for the four experts on the stage. The COVID-19 in China has been very effectively curtailed, but worldwide it is still rampant. In particular, as we discover that a second wave is emerging in Europe. In the United States, the pandemic is still ravaging that country, the people. Against such a backdrop, to stop the world all over seems impossible. Against such a severe scenario, how can China prevent imported cases? In winter and autumn, the first wave of tests has arrived. That is respiratory infectious disease, in particular influenza, seasonal influenza. How can China effectively keep our gate? Maybe we'll pass the mic to Professor Zhang Wenhong first. Thank you. Thank you very much. This is an issue of many people's interest. At present, the priority in COVID-19 control is as follows. You know, the first wave of epidemic is over. Now, the second wave has arrived. People worldwide are very familiar with the COVID-19. China is quite successful in the prevention control of the first wave. The second wave, we are dealing with the imported cases. As per our existing policies of control, our control against the second wave is still quite effective. The existing strategies and measures should be followed very strictly. If that is the case, we have the confidence in curtailing the imported cases. As of today, in certain areas, there are small-scale outbreaks as a result of imported cases, but it can be controlled within very small scale. So, yes, I know that people are very cautious. As long as we can keep on the original policy and measures, we will be fine. As for the winter and autumn influenza, every year we will have that. This year, people tend to be more cautious due to the COVID-19. the influenza virus will come as scheduled, like previous years. But our tactics and strategies are very clear. Down the road, the task is how to break the unbalanced level of epidemic control, how to break the barriers, how to be open to different countries. This is quite challenging. It needs vaccine and collaboration and trust. I have a question for Mr. Lance Rothwald. As for the answer by Dr. Zhang Wenhong, if we want the world to go on, because it's impossible and impractical to stop the world altogether. We want to allow the world to operate as it is. On the other hand, we need the cross-border collaboration to control imported cases. What is your view and suggestion on that?
Well, from a personal point of view, my wife is in quarantine in Shanghai. She's coming back to visit after being away for 9 months, and so she's thrilled to be coming back here, and she's happy to have 2 weeks in quarantine, and then she'll be able to join me in Beijing. But I think I totally agree that this is a very, very, very complicated problem, and one of the most important things is the role of the laboratory that has helped so much so far. It has made this virus that's normally invisible, visible, able to be seen, and so it makes it possible to identify people who have the virus and who may be able to infect others. Now, soon we will have vaccines, and so one of the key questions, I think, is whether vaccines are going to help with some of the international travel. For example, we don't know whether the vaccines may have effectiveness if given after exposure, or only whether they're effective if given before exposure. And so there's some potential that the quarantine might be able to either be shortened or managed in a different way. So that's something that'll be the subject, I think, of future research. But also, I think these COVID-19 vaccines are going to become travel vaccines, and so that people will know if they've been protected or not protected. I think that will likely make a difference, but nobody knows if the vaccines are going to be good enough to do that. Nobody knows whether their effectiveness is enough, and nobody knows right now what a correlation of protection will be, but we will have to see. We'll use science, innovation, and cooperation with other countries to do this.
刚才我们的这个外国专家特别谈到这个疫苗的这个全球合作的这个问题啊。那其实这个除了疫苗之外，
apart from vaccines, we also have a lot of scientific research collaborations. How could we further push forward collaborations in scientific research? I will give the question to Mr. Cheng Arjun, Vice President of the Beijing Hospital. How to control the pandemic? How to make sure that the vaccines could come out of basic research and be applied for the general population, and how can we use the technologies and research results to reduce the death rate of COVID patients? It's a very important question. For the virus, if we could reduce the death rate of COVID-19, then it would just become an ordinary cold. We could easily get it under control, but now currently the death rate is still high. As for your question, we believe that we need to work on the strategies of saving COVID patients. I've been to Wuhan at the early age of our combat against COVID-19. We have some very basic clinical trials, and we believed that we need to learn and understand the signs of preventing patients from becoming critically ill patients. So we now have 40 million patients of COVID-19 worldwide. The death rate is still high. So in this process, We need to further ramp up cooperation, and we need to jointly explore our treatment, better treatment for patients, how to reduce death rate for patients. In these areas, we could really enhance collaboration, and we need international collaboration to reduce death rates. Vaccines are also important. If we have vaccines, we could protect susceptible patients and vulnerable patients. But if we could strengthen the treatment or optimize treatment for patients, it is also crucial. I believe that this is crucial to the control of COVID-19. We need to control the patients, control the COVID-19 spread, and also ramp up the treatment of patients. So for Mr. Chen Kai-xian, for the current treatment of COVID-19 patients, we have oxygen therapy, we have various interventions, and we also have huge hopes for vaccines, and we also have been using some medications. For example, remdesivir, HCQ. These drugs are believed to be useful, and also Chinese traditional medicine. So from your point of view, what can we do jointly to optimize the treatment of patients and strengthen the prevention of COVID-19? It's an important question. Well, the outbreak of the pandemic is fierce and is rapid. We don't have existing solutions for that. So scientific research is crucial in this process. At the very beginning of the outbreak of COVID-19, we've been working very fast in the research of medications. For example, we use traditional medications and Chinese medications, and also new medications, and also antibodies to treat COVID-19. So we carried out a lot of research projects. This has greatly improved the treatment for patients and also has worked in the prevention of COVID-19. In this process, I believe that international collaboration is hugely, tremendously important. The outbreak and spread of virus could not be limited to one country. It has no borders. It is the common enemy to us all. No one country could stand alone and immune to this virus. No one country could prevent the virus alone. So innovative collaboration with other countries is very important. So I believe that we could enhance collaboration, international collaboration, in two areas. First, in our ordinary work, we need to have a mechanism for international collaboration exchanges. For example, with the outbreak of the pandemic, with the gene sequencing, with the protein of the virus, and the analysis of the different structures of the virus, all these results should be published in a transparent way and should be shared among scientists around the world. This is crucial to the development of the vaccine. I believe that in this area we have already had very good examples of collaboration at the international level. For example, Shanghai scientists, they found the Levmid is an old drug. In vitro, it could control the development of the virus, but inside of the body, internally, could it battle the virus? It still needs research. So this old drug, leflunomide, the research of this drug is backed by international institutions from a lot of countries. So this is a very good illustration of how international collaboration could further strengthen basic research and treatment of patients. Secondly, I believe that if one country achieved very good results in treatment and in vaccines. They should be shared around the world. So medications, be them medications or vaccines or treatment solutions, all these results should be shared around the world. These are joint achievements of mankind. So we should draw upon the common wisdom of mankind. Thank you. So 17 years ago, we have an outbreak of SARS. And since then, the biomedical scientific development has seen huge advances. Just like academician Chen just said, at the beginning stage of the outbreak of COVID-19, our scientists had rapidly the results of gene sequencing of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So within a short period of time, also thanks to the control measures and policies of our country, we have kept under control the virus, the spreading of the virus. So next question is, even though we have already had good results in controlling the virus, but from the standpoint of basic research, what kind of weaknesses do we have? Going forward, how could we address these weaknesses? Mr. Zhang, you go first. So, since the outbreak of the COVID-19, different countries have their different ways to control the virus. Some countries did a good job, others did not. But at the end of the day, the control and prevention of COVID-19 resides in a joint effort for the international community. Even though China did a good job, the world could not reopen. So we still need to wait for, on the one hand, medications that could effectively treat the patients and reduce the death rate. On the other hand, vaccines that could protect vulnerable patients. So if we could do these two things, the world will then reopen. So everyone is now still waiting for the hope that are given to us by science and technology. So we are still not seeing medications and vaccines that are put into the market. It may not be a long wait, but if we want the whole humanity to be protected, if we want the whole world to reopen, we need to have these two scenes, and this day will come. So for Mr. Zhang, another question for you. I've seen in the news that there are several cases that are reinfected with the virus. So does it mean that vaccines should be highly effective? Well, in the world, we have 45 million patients of COVID-19 in the world. Only 9 patients were diagnosed as a reinfection of COVID-19. But the COVID-19 has been spreading and circulating for 9 months. So this is a question not worthy of our discussion. Our immune system will not be battled by the SARS-CoV-2 for a second time. We only have identified 9 cases that were reinfected. The percentage is quite small, only 9 patients out of 14 million. So there's no evidence from the science side that this could be a general problem. So the most important problem now is vaccine. So other questions are not that important. For Lance Roadward, Mr. Roadward, from your perspective and from the biomedicine basic research point of view, after the outbreak of COVID-19, what kind of weaknesses do we have? So not just for China, all these countries, do they have weaknesses in terms of basic research, and what kind of collaboration could we do internationally?
I'm the wrong person to ask about weaknesses in China's response. I've been in total awe of what was done here. Something that seemed that was going to be completely impossible. The virus was contained in about 2 months. It was an amazing, amazing feat of public health, and there are heroes here in the room who have been at the forefront of this. Weaknesses, so I think another way to look at this question is, what can be learned from some of the successes that were done here? And one of the key things that I think characterized the response in China is that the disease control and prevention group went after the virus. They went directly after the virus to try to find where the virus is and prevent its transmission to the next person and to interrupt transmission. And that was effective, but it required massive amounts of laboratory testing, immense capacity in the programs, people able to do all of this contact tracing and identify somebody before they can infect somebody else, but it worked. And not only that, it's been proven to be effective for the next 6 or 7 months, as these smaller outbreaks were all stopped with the same technology of test and trace, quarantine, isolate, and it works. And so I think that teaching how to do that will be helpful, and then the vaccines, when they come out, should be able to help lift some of these non-pharmaceutical interventions so that they're not having to be so strict, and that may help the other countries do the same thing, because both these non-pharmaceutical interventions and vaccines lower the reproductive rate of the virus and lower its transmissibility. So together, they may be able to work in harmony and help other countries achieve what has been achieved in China.
查尔顿院长，在这个你在武汉期间，其实对于中国人讲究呼吸机是一个非常重要的。
In Wuhan, we all know that
那么中国其实在整个疫情的这个过程当中
back then you made a big use of ventilators. That was extremely important for saving the patients. And China eventually also supplied a great deal of ventilators to the world. Is it true that some core technology of ventilators that China actually don't possess? So that shows the weaknesses of some basic science in China, in invention and design production. Is that the case? Well, it's actually true. In dealing with severe cases, oxygen therapy was critical. So if you could have orderly oxygen infeed from regular to high flow, to non-invasive, T-invasive, to ECMO. Actually, throughout this process, there are a number of weaknesses that China does not know how to do and how to make in the process. Even though we have some domestically produced ventilators, but in terms of some key technology, it does not meet the critical needs on the ground. For that, China really needs to carry out some R&D research so that it could really cut down the fatality rate of severe cases. So what's your take, Academician Chen, or in pharmaceutical perspective, what do you think? Well, earlier, all of you have mentioned the importance that technology plays in our battle against the COVID-19. And we also know that this crisis has also exposed some of our weaknesses and vulnerabilities. It really has brought it up and close to our right eyes. And we have, in the research and development of new pharmaceutical products, we have carried out some clinical trials. Shanghai scientists have actually published a number of articles on Science and Nature, and even in Science, it was some cover article. But in fact, in dealing with these pandemic diseases, we don't have rich reserve of products and talent. In our long-term science and technology planning, national planning, our overall plan for that is actually vulnerable. We have not put it in a place that is considered necessary. And some P3 high-level biosafety labs, we basically don't have it. So that's part of our restrictions in China too. And also, in terms of animal models, in evaluating efficacy of pharmaceutical drugs, we also lag behind. So these are aforementioned areas that we need to further improve so that we could not only better tackle with the current crisis, we could be also better prepared for any emerging future pandemic. Okay, in the interest of time, I guess I will have to wrap up at this point. I'd like to once again thank all the panelists on the stage, and also like to thank everybody present here, the experts and the guests, for your contribution to Pujiang Innovation Forum. This is the end of the opening ceremony. Thank you very much once again. Thank you, ministers, for staying with us here.
是谁